Hello everybody, I'm Shellie Geigle with JS Hobbies and Crafts, and I have another mini album tutorial. However, it's not mini, it's large. It is 9 inches by 11 inches, and I believe the spine is about a 3-inch on that. I use the Stamperia and the Ciao paper collections in this, and I decided to go with a flat cover. However, if you're wanting to make this, you can add your own embellishments to spice it up to how you like it. So I'll just take you around, and this is quite large, like I said, and I'm going to have to pull the camera back so that you can see everything here. There, I think we can see a little bit better there. So with this, again, it is a 9 inch by 11 inch, and it is loaded. First page here is what we have is a little mini album book, and we went and placed papers in here in the tutorial, and back here I just have a tag. You can stash things well lower and add more picture mats than what you see, and then this opens up, and this opens up, and here we have a pocket and just some picture mats and some tags in there. Over here the same. Over here you can slide things back behind. In the tutorial I actually show you some things you can do for layouts on some of the pages that I leave blank for you to place your own photos. Some people like to place smaller, some larger, so we did this together in the tutorial. Over here, this is a huge envelope, and you can stash things back behind. I have a very large picture mat, and we made this folder together. In here you can store, and it really opens up, you can store photographs, anything. Right now all I have is the leftover cut-aparts and some tags. I will be selling this album, so that will definitely go to the person who purchases it so that they can add their own touches or to some of their layouts. Next page is just a very large pocket, and up here we have some suitcases here, a little cutout, and we made it so we could slide things back behind. And back here I have a very large picture mat. I have a 4x6 picture mat in there, I believe, and then this is just a folder so you can just slap your photos right on in there. Over here is a bit different. What we did was we created a belly band, and I just stacked a bunch of stuff in there. I have this folder so I can just add my photographs to. I have another one here, and some picture mats. So this is magnetic, and it does open up, and there's a place just to place your photo there. Photo placements here, as well as on the back and on the base sheet there. Next page, what we have is some fold outs and some pockets. So here is the fold out, and they are magnetic. A couple picture mats are in there. You can fold that out, and here is a pocket that we created, and in here is a folder. Place your photos. Over here I just stacked some picture mats and tags, some smaller ones. So there's a variety of sizes of photo mats that I got in here. I like a variety myself because I like to crop photos. Over here is the same thing. Back behind this though, I tucked some smaller little mats. You can even journal on these, and then just a little journal thing sticks behind. Large pocket, can stick some photos in there. Here is a pocket as well. Whoops, there goes my tag. A couple photo mats and a tag. And photo mat here and another tag. Just kind of slides right on in there. This is a good album if you have someone who's very picky that likes more of a masculine, doesn't like the flowers, just wants something that they can lay their travel, or if they're into steampunk, or even everyday photos would work into this. Next page, what we did was we created this folder, and it's magnetic and it's glued down. However, we can slide photo mats back behind it. Also, there's a very large pocket back there. You can just stash your photos. And you can also place photos here if you wanted to. Over here, what we did was a folder. And you can get things back behind that as well. Here is a pocket and some smaller photo mats, and then we have the larger folder. And I didn't map that one. Back here is a very large pocket, and it will accommodate quite a bit of photos and larger mats. Our next page this is a double pocket, and we also did a cut apart here. Now you can stick tags or small photo mats, stick them right back behind her, and I also have some smaller ones over there. And I have some picture mats in here and in here. And everything just kind of slides in. Over here, the same thing, you can stick things back behind him. And I'm just going to pull all these out that I have back here. Some smaller picture mats and a medium. But this, you can actually change out the sentiment. His little hand will hold something. And it will also hold a picture mat, a smaller one of course, but if you want to do something like that. So, pretty cool. This is magnetic and it opens up, and you have all this space here to plant some photos and do some journaling. Picture mat over here that you can tuck right back behind, or if you'd rather just plant a photo, it will slide right back behind too. This is dimensionalized. It's lifted up off the page. So I'm just going to stick all this back behind him. Next page. This one is different. It's unique, but it holds so many photos. This here is stuck on to this, and this is magnetic as well as this one. I'm going to flip that around. There's a little pocket back here, or you can just stick a photograph. It's up to you. Okay, I'm going to pull this over. So this first one, what it does is it folds out, and it keeps folding out upon itself. And it's also on the back, so you can see there is quite a bit. Same goes for here. This just kind of folds itself out and folds back the other way. The camera is definitely not going to get it all. And there was also these, a couple of these in there. We can just journal right in there. And you can still slide a photo back behind. These pull out, and there is space right here, as well as this big area to plant your photos. Last page, this is a little folder, and you can get things back behind it. And this flips up, and a lot of space in this album to plant your photos. So, and then again here, it comes down. This folds out, and again another place for photos, pocket. Very generous sized pocket there to get your stuff in. Over here we have a 3-tier pocket. I'm going to pull all the picture mats and stuff out. So you can definitely get pictures in there, as you can see. Just stick it all in, and here is a folder. And I had that just tucked right up here in the front. So that is what we will be making today. Be sure to download the pre-cutting and measurement guide before starting this. Let's move on into the materials list. Materials list. So for this large album, I've chose 2 of the Stamperia or Stamperia Voyages Fantasiques. And I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but I'm going to bring it up. It is Stamperia, and you're going to need 2 of these. And you get 10 double-sided sheets. And this is just amazing. I'm so excited to get started on this. So because this is a 9-inch by 11-inch, a huge album, and there's a lot of fold-outs and just a lot of fun stuff, I did bring in a 3rd paper pack. And it's going to be the Ciao Voyages Extraordinaires. And they match in great together, and I never... when I'm doing tutorials, I hardly ever mix and match a paper collection, but this is just perfect, and I'm so excited. You'll need 1 of these, and it has 12 double-sided sheets. And look at the cutouts. Now, I realize that it seems expensive for 3 paper packs, but what I did was I eliminated any flower packs. Any packaged flowers, or happen to get it, buy any dies or flower stamps. So that evens it out. And we're not going to have a whole lot of embellishments. Just check that out. And it matches in perfectly with the other. So that is how I compensated for the extra cost of the paper pack. It is wonderful. And it has exactly what we need for this album. So we're going to need 80, for this I recommend using 80-pound cardstock. And I'm going to be using 2 of the 80-pound 10 packs, and they're 12 by 12. I don't recommend using 65-pound for this large of an album, and it's because the larger the page, the more flimsy and the thinner it gets. However, we are going to be incorporating some 65-pound cardstock, and what I'm going to be using is the value pack of the Coordinations Black Cat, and this is 8.5 by 11. This is going to be perfect for my picture mats. It's also perfect for other things that we do in the album, like the little book on the front inside the front cover, and other little things like that. So I'm getting the value pack. 50 sheets come in that. You're going to need a large sheet of Tyvek because we're going to be wrapping the spine on the outside, and we'll need a big hunk, and then we're going to need a couple strips. So if you have a Tyvek envelope, grab it. We definitely need this for our hinging for sure. Also, I'm going to be using the Tim Holtz Distress Ink Vintage Photo. Now, you don't have to use this exact brand. If you have the Memento or something else in a brown, that will work. For my side closure, I'm going to use the Dritz Extra Large Hook and Eyes, and these are the like silver rope style. We're going to be using 3D Zots, and I'm using the singles, and they're the larger ones, and it's to pop up our stuff. where I want it. Now I'm trying something new, and I brought it in my store. A lot of people seem to like it. I have our own little off-brand that I've been using of magnets. However, I wanted to try these out. These are the basic gray magnets, and they're the large magnets. And I heard they were pretty good. So I'm going to need 2 packs of these. And I think there's 12 in a pack. And you'll probably have some left over for sure for another project. Ribbon. So I'm going with the 7/8 inch wide ribbon. And all this is for the side closure when I hook on my drits to close the album. So anything that you have handy. I didn't have any black, so I looked in my stash, and this is about 7/8 inch wide. You can use thinner if you'd like. Because the album is so large, I'm going to be using a couple packs of the 3/8 inch score tape, and then I'll bring in a 1/4 inch score tape. And if I have leftovers for another project, wonderful. Glue, I'm using the Art Glitter Dries Clear Designer Glue. Now, if you're a beginner, you can make this album for sure. I've designed it so in case you don't have any fancy trim punches, if you don't have any die for your decorative trim, you don't need it, because we're going to be, us people that die cut or punch, we'll be adding our trim after the fact, so it'll all work out great. So if you have punches, grab your large edged punch, grab your 1/2 inch punches, whatever you would like. I'm going to be using a variety of dies. A lot of you already have this, so, and you don't need to go out and buy more unless you want to. But I've used this in previous tutorials, and I'm going to use it again rather than buying new. And this is the Heartfelt Creations Frame a Card Leafy Borders. Now I'm going to be using a bunch of different style trim dies in this because I want a variety. And the Fleur Borders Basic, Classic Borders Basic, Delicate Borders Basic, Elegant Pocket Accents, Decorative Pocket Accents, Petite Pocket Accents, Regal Borders and Pockets, the Ornate Borders and Pockets, and this one, I'm going to be using some of it for the larger tags, and I may even use this little strip here, or some other things in this. But I like this for the big tag punch outs and stuff. Now you don't need that. Pretty much I'll be using that for some picture mats, so it's not necessary, but that's what I'm going to do. So whatever you have will work. If you're working with spellbinders, if you're working with other brands or whatever, trim, decorative dies, you just grab what you need because we'll be adding the trim after the fact, and I will help each and every one of you no matter what die or what punch you are using. That's it for the materials. Now as far as the equipment, what you're going to want is your scoring board, your scoring tool, some scissors. You're going to want some fussy cut scissors, pencil with eraser, your ruler, craft knife, and of course your paper cutter. Let's get started. We're going to start with the assembly of the album. You should have cut from the pre-cutting and measurement and scoring guide a front and back chipboard cover. Each one should be 9 inch by 11 inch, and we labeled those front and back. And on the back side of them, go ahead and write on the back of the front inside, and write back inside on the back one, just to keep us straight. We also cut a 3 inch by 9 inch chipboard piece, and we labeled that spine. And we're going to be reinforcing the inner pages that we do. We're going to start off. Now on this one, we're not going to wrap the album. If you are wrapping the album, you're definitely going to have that space in between here. Now I'm not teaching for wrapping. We're going to leave the chipboard as it is. Now one thing you can do, sorry, I bumped my camera. If you have any shards or anything on your chipboard, inspect it. The worst side is going to go to the inside. But you can also grab a small smoothing file. Okay, you can use the buffer, but don't use anything real coarse. And what you can do is just go like this, and it will smooth out any imperfections on that chipboard. Okay, and it will help remove that. Okay, so the next thing that we also did was on Tyvek. We cut 2 pieces that were 1 3/4 inch by 9 inch. This is how this is going to play out is we're actually going to butt these pieces right on up together. And what I'm looking at right now is the front inside and the front or the back inside and our spine piece. By not wrapping, we're able to just push these flush together, and that's what we're going to want to do. So here's our Tyvek pieces, and what's going to happen is you see where the spine meets the front and the spine meets the back. We're going to be applying score tape to the back of this, and we are going to just place this Tyvek top to bottom. So for now, I'm just going to move these to the side so I can have some room here to work with my Tyvek. Tyvek is that material that is going to keep our book together. So if yours has any slivers or seams in it, don't worry about it. It's okay. So I have 3/8 score tape that I've already been working with. And one thing about score tape is the more you touch it with your fingers, because there's always oils and everything on your fingers, the less potent it becomes. Throughout this tutorial, anytime you lay your score tape, you're definitely going to burnish it down. And by doing that, that is going to get out any of the air bubbles caught underneath between the score tape and the material you are laying it on. And because if air is caught underneath, it's going to dry out and it's going to lift. So all we're going to do here is we're going to take our 3/8 inch and we're going to line each piece with score tape, and we're going to completely cover these pieces. So let's begin by doing that. Oh, another thing I want to say really quick is regarding the score tape and it becoming less potent when you are touching it. It's always a good idea to wash your hands with soap and water and make sure there are no perfumes, there are no lotions, oils on your skin, because it's almost impossible for us not to touch it. All right, let's get started by covering each piece with score tape completely on each side here. Just one side on each. So because I had a gap with the 3/8 inch score tape, I did lay a piece of 1/4 inch over that little gap. And it's okay that it overlaps onto the other. So here's my 2 pieces, and I'm going to flip it over. Any score tape that I see peeking out, we're definitely going to chop off. And make sure you burnish down your score tape really good. Perfect. Let's grab our chipboard pieces here. Now one thing with this is you do not have to be absolutely perfect, because it's going to get covered up. So here's, whoops, there's the back. Here's my front. The back should be off to my right. So what I'm going to do is line up my pieces and push them flush together. I've got my spine and the front inside showing up. Top and bottom should be the same. Now what I'm going to do is pull off the score tape backing, and I'm going to maneuver this centered between that. So my spine piece is going to be like that, and I am going to place that. If you get it crooked, it's okay. It's going to get covered up. I'm going to start removing the score tape backing because we're going to place this together. Okay, I'm going to push these together now. Make sure that I am even top to bottom and they are pushed together tight, and I'm going to lay this. All right, so I'm just going to burnish that down really good. Now, if you have anything like this, like I have an extra lip here, You can just cut that right on off, or you can glue it back down. It makes no difference as long as it isn't going to keep pulling down. So I've cut off some excess. I have some still down there. And I'll just place a little glue to keep that down. And I'll burnish it. It's always a good idea to burnish even after you put your glue down because it gets the air bubbles out as well. So right now what you have is your piece, and you should be able to lift it up. This is the way the book is going to go. You will not be able to bend it back because we don't need to bend it back. That's not the way the book goes. So we're going to remove the score tape backing off of this other piece here, and we're going to attach the back side. Here we go. This we're going to push together. Make sure you're even top and bottom, and it is pushed tight together there, and place this. Perfect. Now burnish. Let's move on to the next pieces that we are going to need right now. This Tyvek large piece that we cut, and that is our spine wrap. We're going to set this off to the side. We don't need that. That's for the outside. Let's just make sure we have all of our pieces. I think that that's the best bet. Okay, so let me grab my stuff, and we'll just verify that we got everything we need, and what we need now we will grab. And I'm going to grab my scoring board because there was some scoring involved. We cut 5 pieces of our 80-pound cardstock, and it is 8.5 inches by 11 1/16 inch. And there were 5 of these. On each one of these, we laid them on our scoring board, so we were 11 1/16 inch across our board. We scored each one at a 1/2 inch. For now, let's just set those off to the side. The next thing that we did was we cut one piece that was 2 15/16 by 9 inch. And this was an inner spine cover. And we only did one of these. We're not quite ready for this one just yet, but let's just keep that right handy. Next we cut 2 pieces that were 9 inch by 2 inch, and we called them hinge covers. We want those. Those are our next ones we're going to work with. So we laid this on our scoring board. So we were 2 inches across. We scored each one at 1 inch. So we're just going to lay that right there. We also cut 2 pieces, very large, that were 9 inch by 11 inch. And these were our inside chipboard covers. We're going to set this off to the side along with our inner spine cover. Okay, so that's all that we need for now. The hinge covers that are 9 by 2, what we're going to do is fold on that score line. Okay, and we'll do it for this one. And we'll use our tool to help us. Okay, peaks are up, and also we have our writing up. What we're going to be doing with these. Now, if you notice when you open up, we can lay this down, and even if your white Tyvek shows, it doesn't matter because it's going to get covered either way. So we'll do with the peak side up. We are going to completely cover each one of these, kind of like what we did with the Tyvek, because these are our Tyvek hinge covers. And I'm going to be using my 3/8 inch. And we're going to make sure we get at the edge and completely cover this. Now you don't need to place your score tape right on the peak there. You can go on either side. If you need to use your 1/4 inch in between there, use it. or you can use some of your glue for this on the inside there, whatever you'd like. So I am going to finish up laying my score tape, and then we will regroup. So I have both my pieces. I will place glue in between there, right as I am about ready to place it. So I burnished it down, I flipped it over, and I clipped off any score tape that may have been peeking over. So we're going to lay this together. Put my glue down. Whoops. Getting crazy. Okay. So you can see where that crease is. So I'm going to pinch this back for a moment, and I'm going to line that up where the peak is here. It's going to go in the crease area here. So I'm just going to make sure I'm all lined up down here and not going over my book edge. And then I can kind of press down here so I know where I need to go. And then it's easy just to guide that right on up. So I've got one side down. Now you just fold this over and we burnish really good. We're going to do the same for this side. This is the easiest album construction that is that holds together, that stays together, that you don't need to have a whole lot of fuss. This is how I've done it and how I continue to do it over the years. So long as you're burnishing down, you will not have anything lifting. Okay, I'm going to pinch it and find my crease there. Make sure I don't go over the edge of my chipboard. And I can press that down. And now I can just guide that right on up. And if you get it on crooked, that's okay, because things, you will be, your Tyvek, if it's peeking out, it's going to get covered. And so it's not a big deal. So now you can lift your thing up. And just make sure you burnish down really good. Now is the time for our inner spine cover. It's 2 15/16 by 9 inches. And all we're going to do is first, before we lay any score tape here, all we're going to do is lift up one side. We'll place that right down. But I want you to make sure that your cut is correct. Lift your other side. It should not interfere with that hinge. So, and if you need to trim a little, go ahead, but that's why I did it at 2 15/16 rather than the full 3 inch. I'm going to set this aside. Now this is very important because this is going to be holding our inner pages down to the spine. You definitely want to use your score tape and completely cover this piece. So let's start, and I'm just going to use my 3/8 inch here, and I'm going to completely cover it. And when you're done doing that, we'll flip it over, we'll clip off any score tape that may be peeking over the edges, and we're definitely going to be burnishing this down. So let's do that really quick. Alrighty, so mine is completely covered. I'm going to now remove the score tape backing, and for me it's easiest to pull up one side, place it in next to the little hinge here, line myself up top and bottom, and place it. So we'll do that together. Let me get off my score tape backing here. I've got the score tape backing off. Let's do this together. Let's pull up one side, line it up with the bottom. You can put your finger there too to make sure you don't go over the edge, and place it. Now if you get it on crooked, flip your album over, use your craft knife and cut off anything that is peeking over the edge of your album. So I'm going to spend a moment and burnish this down and inspect. Mine is together. Now if you're not perfect on how you did this, don't worry, we have a lot more ways to go, and I think you're going to be just fine. The next pieces that we're going to grab is the 9 by 11 inside chipboard covers. Now, if you were to flip this over, line this up with your chipboard, top and bottom, And that should be a perfect fit. So again, we're going to be covering up those extra little hinges we put on for extra security, and it should be a nice fit without interfering with your hinge thing there. So for this, what I'm going to do, it's a very large piece. I am going to go around the outside like a picture frame 2 times, 2 rows with my 3/8 inch score tape. And then I'm going to put some strips of it in here, and I will show you. And what we do on this one, we're going to grab our other one and do the same. So give me just a moment and I'll show you. So this is what mine looks like. I've got 2 rows going around. Now, because, and I'll be doing that the same with my other one, if you would rather use glue, you can. Just make sure you cover your sheet really good. It's easier to maneuver glue when you have to be perfect on those edges up there. So it's completely up to you. This will be fine to hold this down. One thing is make sure that you investigate. If you have any score tape peeking over, you're going to clip it. So I'll be doing the same thing with this one. And what we're going to do is, like I said, we'll line up our corner in the bottom first, and then we'll line up over here, making sure. Now, if you have anything that peeps over, like for instance, got this up, you can just trim that. I hardly doubt you're going to see the imperfection on the inside by the time we're done placing our beautiful paper and everything else. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to release my score tape, and I'm going to get these both down. So now you should have a very nice clean base. You may have some ripples here. Don't worry, that's where our inner pages are going to lay. You won't see it. It's just from the thicker cardstock hinges underneath. So here's our front, here's our back, and if you would like to write front inside, you can. This will get covered, of course. And this is back inside. And the only reason why I like to label things, especially in tutorials, is because I have in the past, and I never want to repeat that error, got my cover on, got my album switched around, and guess what? All my inner pages ended up upside down because I was flipped around. So that's why I like to do that. Let's get our inner pages on. And you're going to need your 3/8 inch score tape for that. You have 5 inner page cuts, and we already went over the scoring and all that. On each one of these, we're going to fold and burnish on those score lines. And it's pretty important that you try to keep that score line even, really straight. So we're just going to do that on each one of those. And once we do that on each one of those, what we're going to do is lay this down. The peak is up, and we're going to grab our 3/8 inch score tape. Hello, where did mine go? Oh my gosh, already it found legs and ran away from me. Funny, it hopped right in the trash can. Okay, so once you've folded on each one and with the peak up, you're going to lay a piece of your 3/8 inch score tape right in there between the score line and the inner edge. And you're definitely going to need to burnish, and if you have any overhang of score tape, we're going to clip that off. Although we are going to be reinforcing and covering up these black little spacers, our hinges there, it's always best to have a clean album. So we're going to do that with each one of these after we've folded, so we can get ready to place it. And remember, burnish, get all that air out from underneath that tape. I've got all my pages done here. I'm just going to grab one for now, and I'm going to show you before we do it. So what's going to happen is we're going to release the score tape backing on this little hinge here. And the easiest way to do this is first eyeball this, stick it up against until this hits when you pull up the front inside, this hits right in there against it. Now you're going to have maybe close to 1/4 inch top and bottom as far as down here and here. The key is just to place this evenly between the top and bottom, so you have a little bit of a bottom room and a little bit of headroom. So I am going to place my first one, and you can watch, and then we're going to place the rest together. And you will see just how easy this is. So I'm going to pull up, and again, this is our inside where we've laid our paper, front inside. I'm going to pull this up, and I don't want to get my head in the camera, so I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm going to pull this straight up. I'm going to put this against where that hinge is, and I'm going to try and get it even top to bottom, as even as I can. And I think that's it for me. So I've got that there, and I'm going to press. Next, the most important is we have got to burnish that down. So I'm going to take a look. I'm pretty even top to bottom as far as headroom. It's all good. We do need to have some because we're going to be reinforcing these hinges. So there's our first one, and I'm just going to flip that right on over. Let's grab our second one. And again, before I take it off, I'm going to tell you how this places. It's so easy now because once we take off the score tape backing, we're just going to butt that right up against this first page, and we'll line it up to the bottom of that and the top, and then we will press, and they should all fall in line evenly. If it's a little bit off, it's okay. You're really not going to notice it, especially if this is your first album. So I'm just going to bring this so I can see what I'm doing here, and I'm going to line that up together, and I'm going to press. It's down, and now I'm going to burnish that really good to get the air out from underneath. Okay, and as you can see, they kind of fall together. Let's do our third one. We'll release the score tape backing. And I'm going to butt that right on up next to the other. And then we're going to burnish down again. And we're done here. And I'll press it down. And we'll burnish. So far we have our page one, which we burnished down. We're going to go on this side and burnish. And we're going to do this every time we lay a page. We burnish down this, and then we'll just kind of burnish that down just to make sure. Here's our third page, and we'll just kind of burnish that down. Here's our fourth. There we go. Okay, bring this down closer to me. I'm going to line it up, top and bottom, as best I can. Make sure I'm in that little butted up next to it. And I think right about there. Close enough. And I'm going to flip that over, and I'll burnish it down here. The last one is this one, and it's the same thing. Just going to butt those up against each other, and we'll burnish that down really good. And you may end up with slightly bigger space back there, but it doesn't matter because, and you should be like this, because I have something to do back here, and it'll just give us a little more space. But this is what you should have, and it looks good. Your pages should all be in line, and if they're slightly crooked, that's okay. No big deal. So here is our base album. We are now ready to move on to decorating the outside, and this is our spine cover that we set off to the side. And once we get our front and back paper down, this is where this will come into play. We're on to decorating the outside of our album. Let's stick this off to the side. Whoops. And let's get into our Stamperia Voyages. And inside here, you're going to find 2 of these sheets. So here's our first one. Be careful getting it out. And then we will find it again right here. And on this side, it looks like this. So we're just going to grab both of those. For now, we'll stick this off to the side. All right, because that I want to make sure we have the same cuts. Right now, the only one we're going to be working with is this one. So I try to stay consistent with how I tell you to cut. And usually I measure from this side on over. So with this, we are going to turn our paper like this. Looking at it like this, we're going to measure over 8 15/16 inch and cut. This is what you should have, and as I stated, any leftover cuttings we're going to stick in our reserve pile. So let's stick this off to the side. So now looking at our paper like this, we are going to measure over 10 3/4 of an inch and cut. And the little piece left over goes in our reserves. So this is what you should have. Let's just flip that over like this and set this off to the side. Let's grab our other piece and we're going to flip it over so that we have the same leftover pieces. All right, so to begin, let's just turn our piece like this, looking at it sideways. We will measure over 8 15/16 inch and cut. We'll put the small piece in our reserves. Looking at your sheet like this, let's measure over 10 3/4 of an inch and cut. We'll flip this piece over so that we are looking at it like this. Let's grab the front of our album and I'm going to stick these off to the side for a moment. Another thing we're going to want handy is in our drits, this is the rope style. If you're not using rope style, you can just use the ones that you have. We'll just keep that handy here off to the side. And I think what we're going to do with this is grab one of these and we will have the stripe at the bottom and I'm looking at the front. And the stripe over here will be towards the left, so it will get covered up. But what I want you to do is if you were to place this, you will notice that if you center this top to bottom, you should have a little bit of black showing here and a little bit down here. And we'll want that same over here. And then we have some black over here, and that's fine because we have a wrap to go over. So with this sheet, we're just going to turn it over, and this is the one I have. And I think I'm going to, because I have more of it, my 3/8 inch. The first thing that we're going to want to do is go around the outside edges like a picture frame. We're also going to do that the next line in. So we'll kind of have 2 strips here, 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 and here to start. So the reason why I like to do 2 strips over here and here is in case we get turned around. We are going to need, especially where we attach that drits on the outside, one of our hook, to make sure it stays down and we've got some stickies underneath it so it doesn't come back up. We'll burnish this down in a moment. So we're going to put one right down the middle on this. And we don't have any heavy embellishments. If you were going to be adding more embellishments than what you saw in the beginning of this video for the album overview, you'll want to put more tape or maybe compensate by a little glue in between. So now what we're going to do, we're going to put 2 strips on either side of that middle one. And that's to make sure we don't get any lifting or bubbling up or paper lifting. So this should be just fine. Okay, let's flip over this other one and we will do the same thing with that. Then we're going to go back and we're going to burnish down really good. We'll flip our page over and inspect and clip off any score tape that may be hanging over the edge. I have my other one completed. I'm going to start with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is start removing all the score tape backing. I am going to place this now. This is my front, and I wanted the lines on the front of mine, on the bottom, and over to the side where my spine is. I'll put that. So for me, I am going to turn my album like this. This is my opening. It's easier for me so I don't get my head in the video. And if it's easier for you to do it at a different angle, that's fine. But I am just going to, so I can see what I'm doing here. And I think that's good. And then what I can do is once I have that down, I can actually open up my album flat and burnish this down really good. Especially get those edges really good. Make sure that it's down really good. Alright, I'm just going to flip this over. Here's my back. My opening's on this side. And with this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to remove the score tape and I'm going to place it all the way to the opening side. Giving myself a little bit of a black border there. It's just a hair, just enough, just like the top and bottom will have. And we will place this one. Got mine down, and now I'm just going to burnish this down really good. Get all the air out from under the score tape. And in some cases, you can actually hear the bubbles coming out. All right, so let's check to make sure. This is our front inside, so this is our front outside. Let's set our album off to the side, and this is where our Tyvek is going to come into play, but first we need to find our decorative paper that's going to place on top of this. Let's get back into the paper pack we've already started with. Inside there you're going to find this sheet. I'm so sorry if my camera arm bounces around. Try to keep it still, but it's kind of hard. Okay, so and then on the other side it's this, and this is what we're actually going to be using. But I want to make sure we have the same leftover cuts. First off, we're going to measure over 6 1/8 inch and cut. So this is what you should have. Let's put this in our reserves. And we're going to work with this. Measure over 9 inches and cut. This is what you should have. So we're going to leave the side we want showing up down because we're going to back this with Tyvek in hopes that some of you that experience or have experienced in the past cracking around the edges, maybe this will help. Maybe it won't, but we're going to certainly try. For this, what we want to do is, and I'm going to make this real easy because we're going to be covering this part with our score tape, but we don't actually have to do all the way to the side. So if you want to take your ruler and lay it down, and what we will do is we will measure in just about 1 inch. And we'll measure in 1 inch from this side. And we'll start there. So everything in between your two marks is going to have score tape. And what I like to do, and I'm going to lay this first one down, and I'll have some clipping. What I like to do first is go around. Oh, look at me go. Wow, I'm totally off there. I like to go around the edges first like this. Kind of frame it. That ensures that I get the score tape along the bottom edge all the way. And once I have that, then what I like to do is just run strips to fill this. And then what we'll do with this is we can just apply glue. Let's finish up laying our strips. And then we'll burnish it down. What I'm first going to do, and remember we're going to be looking at it with this side towards us, this print, is I'm going to remove all of the score tape backing. Then I'm going to come and make sure I get those edges with my glue, fill it in on each side. I'm stuck to my Tyvek. Okay, I got my glue on there. Now the beauty of this is if you get this on crooked and it's not lined up perfectly, you can trim it. So all we want to do is center it between the sides because you'll be able to see a little bit of your paper over here and here. But we will line up top to bottom, right at the edge. And I may have got this on crooked. That's okay. This particular piece, it doesn't matter because we can trim it before we place it on. All we're trying to do is put that Tyvek and get that Tyvek on the back of our decorative print. To see if this doesn't help some of you that experience cracking on the spine when wrapping. Just make sure that score tape is down really good. Okay, so now take a look. Do you have any Tyvek or glue that needs to be cleared up? I seem to be on okay. I don't have any Tyvek out the sides. If you do, trim it, because all you want to see is your decorated paper. All right, here we go. We're going to do the same thing so we do not waste our score tape in places that we don't need it. So pencil time. I'm going to try to get mine on a little bit better than I did. So from the side, the complete side of your page, measure in 1 inch and make a pencil mark. I'm going to flip this around, the edge of my decorative paper in 1 inch. And this may help me keep straight by just drawing a line down the sides so I can get my score tape on halfway decent. Okay, before we do anything, I want to show you what's going to happen. We are going to fill this up, the inside here, with score tape. The other part, we're going to do glue. And I'm going to give mine just a little bend to help it out a little bit. But what we're going to end up doing, and I'm going to flip mine, and I'm going to bring this down so you can see what I'm talking about. If you notice, if you were to place this down center, you should have about 1 3/8 inch overhang evenly on each side. And then once you have that done, we can bring it up to leave just a little bit of black, possibly, or just line it up. I can see the black here and here on my thing. And then what's going to happen is we're going to end up wrapping this so it's going to come over the front. So it may be, once we get the score tape on, we will measure from the side of our album, where you see your side, 1 3/8. And I'm trying out these new contacts. They're bifocal contacts, and they're on like tryout period. And honest to God, I cannot see as well as I can with my little reader glasses. So today, later this afternoon, I'm actually going back to get a stronger up close, because I just don't feel like I'm seeing what I should be seeing. All right. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go from the top all the way to the bottom. I'm going to line it like a little frame, like we've been doing. And then what I'm going to do is fill the inside with score tape. And then we'll do the glue over here. And that may be easier for some of you to position this spine cover easier, because if it's glue to start, you can at least maneuver a little bit better. So I'm going to take a moment to fill this, and then what I'm going to do is place glue over here, and we're going to plant this right on our album. I've got my score tape backing on, and I have my glue. I'm going to move some of my stuff out of the way, and I kind of made a mark about 1 3/8 on the front there. And to get me started, I am going to do mine like this, so I try not to get my head in the video. And I'm just going to come up to that point, if I can find it. There it is. And match myself up. I think that's good enough. Okay, so I got that part down. Okay, this is where you're going to want to stand your album up. And you're just going to want to help it along. Make sure that the glue is dry, that you have down. Burnish it so it does not want to slip away. And you can get some of that score tape down, most likely. Okay, hold it up and you can just rest your hand there, but you can help by running your hand up and down that little sides so that your score tape can grab hold. Okay, now you can just push that right on over and it should fall right in line, and we'll burnish that in a moment. Now we have the back side. Okay, I'm going to turn my album around, have it sitting like this, and I'm going to push around that corner, run my finger down so it tries to get on even. And I'm going to look up here to make sure I match up. And I think I got that on fairly good. Now I'm going to just let that glue grab first. I usually don't do the glue. Usually just do all score tape. But I wanted to try something different with you all. Now if you get it on not even, it does not matter because we have something else. Just make sure now that you go and burnish. And I'm going to burnish down here and on the edges. Get that as best I can. And here. So now what you can do is, see how stiff you are? You can put your album up on end and you can split. Now you can carefully, slowly have your album come down. Okay, you may get that. Now one thing you can do is you can just run your hands. I usually like to put my fingernails together and get where that score tape needs to go. And I just push and come straight on down. Okay, like so. So you pinch it to start and then rub your fingers together. Okay, you can burnish, you can do whatever you need it to do at this point. Now carefully close your album. Now your album should be able to open up and with no problem. Okay, and you can check again if you need to burnish with your fingers together down that spine area. Okay, like that. And now your spine is on. Now for now, because this is like a brand new, you're going to want to flare out like that. That is what our closure is going to help, especially when we start getting stuff in there. But pretty quick here, your album will loosen up and will be just fine. It's like a brand new book. It's stiff. Okay, so look at yours, and I think I do have mine on pretty straight, but I think it's the print that makes it look like it's not. So we are going to place something over, and I always recommend doing that. It's kind of hard to get those spine covers on evenly. My front looks pretty even to me, but we're going to put a strip down there. Grab these two back out of your reserves. On one side it looks like this. On the other side it looks like this. So what we want to do is put this on our paper cutter, and just to the left of the brown frame going around, we're going to trim on each one of these, and I'll show you what mine looks like. I've got mine cut off, so you still have your brown here. Here are the two cream pieces. We're going to put those in our reserves because we can definitely use those. Now what we're going to do is put this back on our paper cutter and trim just to get that brown strip off each one of yours. And I'll show you mine. I've got my brown pieces. So all we want to do now is, you have some cream colored, oop, got glue on me, cream colored at the top there. We're just going to trim so that it's open up there. Now what we're going to do, because this little bit should straighten us out if we are a little lopsided, and especially on the back, and I'll show you mine. But I'm going to lay this down top to bottom, and I'm going to cut it to fit. It's about 9 inches, and I'm going to glue that down. Now let's look at the back where it looks really off. It's not really, but it's in the paper that kind of makes it go off to the side. Again, I'm going to cut off that top part. And I'm just going to lay this, and that should help you look more straight. Even if you are straight, but that paper, the way it looks up there, or wherever yours hit, whether it's the front or the back, and we're going to measure to fit, and then we're going to glue that down. So let's take care of that. We should have some small little extra pieces. They look so minor, it looks like we can throw them away. Please don't. Please put those in your reserves. You never know when we might need a skinny little piece. So let's do that, and then we'll come right back and continue on. I've got mine down, and I am looking at the front of my album. Now it's time to place our pieces. In the paper pack that we've been working on, you will find this, the cut aparts page. And on the back, it looks like this. All we're wanting to do is cut up and around. And as far as where to cut up and around, you're just going to follow the green all the way around. And make sure you don't cut off to the side. Just kind of go with it and cut that out. And when I cut this out, I'm going to hand cut it so I don't cut off anything else off this paper. If you have brown ink or you're using the same ink, I'm just going to ink around the edges a little bit on my piece. The next thing that we want to do is look in our reserves of our 65-pound paper. We're going to apply glue to this, and we are going to glue this down to a piece, and then what we're going to do is cut out and around the image, leaving just about a 1/16 of an inch of black showing to frame it. And I'll show you what mine looks like when I'm done. So here is my piece, and as you can see, it's a very fine line of, as best I could anyway, getting it the same with the black around it. We're not going to glue this down until we get our next piece, so I'm just going to set that down. And oh, one thing is notice how this is kind of warped? I'm going to tell you why. Is because what had happened was before my glue was actually dry, I burnished it down and all, but my glue wasn't dry. I started twisting it to try and cut around. And if you do that when your glue isn't dry yet, you'll get some warping. But I'm going to make sure that when I glue this down to this, it won't be warped. So that is just a quick tip when using the wet glue. I am into paper pack number 2 for the Stamperia because what I want is right here. And I'm going to carefully take this out. This is the train on the back. It looks like this. It's what we used on our spine. Unfortunately, because we had to make a bigger cut, the train was cut off in our scraps. So this is what we're going to do with this sheet. We're going to, and I'm going to show you with my pencil. You see the top of the stack on the steam train? There is a line right above that. It's right here. We're going to put this on our paper cutter. We're going to cut straight over here until we meet this right here. And then we're going to cut straight down. And I'm going to show you what mine looks like. So our piece looked like this, right? This came off the side, so it didn't cut off the front of my train. And then up here, and you can still see some of the smoke coming out. So these two pieces put in your reserves. What we're going to do now is we are going to fussy cut around this. So I'm just going to cut up and around. You don't have to be real detailed if you don't want to. Cut up and around this whole image, and when you come down here, we'll come down and we'll cut straight across the bottom where this track is. And I'll show you what mine looks like. This is my train cut out. So, and as you can see, I wasn't too detailed, and I didn't go right up against the image. I kind of cut out and around it. I am going to ink around the edges of this. Now the next thing I want to do is look in my reserves, and I think I'm going to use for this one my 65 pound would be good because it's going to be flat. So I'm going to grab a sheet that's big enough for this. And all I'm going to do is, after I ink around the edges, I'm going to apply glue to this, and I'm going to place it down on it and leave a little bit of a black, 1/16 of black. So once you have this down and you burnish down with your glue and your glue is dry, cut out and around, leaving just a little bit of black, and that will help accent it along with your ink. And I'll show you what mine looks like. This is what mine looks like, and I have it mounted to the black cardstock. So when I place this, I'm going to be placing glue back behind this whole piece. However, I'm going to be layering this a little too. So I'm going to be bringing mine up off the bottom. I think it looks best like that. So when I place the glue down, but I'm also going to want to have this like that. So if you have your spot where you want to place your one piece, you can now move the train and add your glue. So I'm going to get underneath here. Let's see, where's that hit? Alright, so now I know. And I'm going to make sure I burnish down this piece really good because it was warped. And I'm going to open up my book for this. Make sure my pages are not crinkled underneath. And I'm going to burnish. Now I can apply glue to this. Bring it on over and glue that down. Just like that. And of course we have to burnish it down really good. And then I think there's going to be one more piece. I know it says time machine on that one, but there's something else that I want to add. Good enough. Just make sure you burnish down and have enough glue right underneath this part because our dress is going to come right over here. I think that looks really good. We have one more piece. I am now in the Ciao Bella paper pack. Inside here, the paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. I dream with my eyes open. That's what I want. So I'm just going to snip this out, and then I'll cut out around it. And I'm going to ink around my edges there. And then after I get this down, I'm going to take these contacts out and put my glasses back on until I can get to the eye doctor because I just am not seeing. And I'm afraid that when I do get my glasses on, when I look at the fine detail of my fussy cutting on that train, I'm going to go, ah! You know, I found that we're our own worst critics of our own stuff. Okay, I'm going to ink around this, and I hope it's straight. Looks pretty straight. Before I figure out where I want to put this, so I had an idea, and now I'm not so sure about it. We're going to grab the hook part to our drits. This is a good time that if you have clamps or a binder clip, this is what's going to help keep this down. Actually, we want the eye, this one. We do want this, but that's just for helping with measuring. So we're just going to use art glue here, and this art glitter glue does work on metal, wood, plastic, all sorts of good things. Okay, what I want to do is find about the middle or so of my album there. Now, once it's there, this is where the hook comes in. And you're going to want to hold that down with your finger so it doesn't fall off. But make sure you can get your hook in there comfortably. You don't want it too tight to where you can't get in and out, but you don't want it too sloppy either. So for me, I think that's a good spot. So the glue is supposed to dry clear, but I do like to sop up some. Anyway, your binder clip, if you have a binder clip, clamp that down. I'm going to use my clamps. So, and I'm going to give that some time to dry. So I found where I'd like to place it. If you don't like where I placed it, you can place it anywhere. You can place it over time machine if you want. But I'm going to apply glue, and I'm going to place that right here. And there is our cover. And I hope you like that. I think it's cool. Let's finish the spine, and that's going to be really easy. We're just going to come in with our scissors, cut this out. We'll ink around the edges, and we're going to put that right on the spine. And I'm going to show you where placement is. What I'm going to do is apply glue, and I'm going to mount this to black cardstock, and I'm going to cut out and around it, leaving a black border like we did with this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to glue that right like that. I've got mine on, and like I said, I'm going to go wash my hands and get these contacts out and put my glasses on because I'm afraid to look actually at my fussy cutting. But I gotta do it. I was right. The minute I put my glasses on, I was like, ah, shoot, it's off. Okay, so here's a tip, and this is what I am going to do here in a bit. Is my black circle going around is so all over the board. Okay, I'm going to actually get a black fine tip marker and just kind of even it up going around. And that is a tip for any time you get something off and it just doesn't look right. And you need to even it up. Maybe you're bigger on one side than the other with lining something. You can use a black marker if you're using the black cardstock. Alright, this looks pretty good to me. I'm happy with the cover and I'm happy with that. So let's move on to starting page 1. Page 1. So we're going to go over our pre-cutting that we did, and we're going to start with the pieces that we cut on 65-pound cardstock. We cut one piece that was 6.5 by 11 inch. We labeled that book base. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 11 inches across our board. We scored at 5 3/8, and we scored at 5 5/8. The next piece is we cut 4 pieces that were 5 11/16 by 6.5. And on all 4 of these pieces, what we did was we laid these on our scoring board, and we were 5 11/16 across our board, and we scored these at 5 3/8, each one of them. And we labeled them book pages. So we're going to move on to the ones that we cut with 80-pound paper. We cut 2 pieces that were 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. We labeled both of them fold out. We laid these on our scoring board, each one, and we scored at 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. Next, we cut 2 pieces that were 3.5 inch by 6 1/8 inch, and we labeled that inside pocket. We are ready to begin. I'm going to set these off to the side. We're going to get our main page in your paper pack, and this is in the Stamperia paper pack. You will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. The first thing that we want to do is put this on our paper cutter, and I made a pencil mark here. We are going to cut all the way down and release that little trim piece. and I'll show you what mine looks like. So this is what you should have. This little trim piece we're going to stick in our reserves. Next, we're going to turn it like this, so it's sideways. We're going to do the same thing. We'll put this on our paper cutter and we will cut straight down. And again, I'll show you what mine looks like. And I am going to stick this in my reserves. All right. Again, we're going to turn this so it's sideways. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. This piece we'll put in our reserves. Now we'll just look at it the way it's meant to be looked at. We'll measure over 10 1/4 inches and cut. Your small piece goes in your reserves. So the first thing that we're going to work with is our fold outs. So we'll start here and we will fold on those score lines and we will burnish as we go. And we'll do it for both of these. Once you've folded and your flaps are back behind, the one that we have here, I have a flap on the left side. And to keep us straight, just right, left. This one over here, we're just going to flip around so that the flap is off to the right. And we'll write right. And the only reason why I want to do that is because now my writing's upside down. Let's attach these. So what we're going to do is you have an outside score line and you have an inside score line. On the outside score line, let's pinch on that. We're going to take that little flap and we're going to tuck it back behind. Next, we're going to line up to make sure we're even with top and bottom. Once you have this flush back against there and you are even, I want you to pinch and hold it so it doesn't get away from you. We're going to grab some of our glue and we'll just place it right there on that hinge. And we'll burnish that down really good. Okay, so what I want you to do now is open it up. If you can see any of your glue seeping out, wipe it up. But you can now, you see you have that outside score line and the inside. On the inside one, we're just going to push back. We're going to push back until we can fill and it is straight on the side, looking like that. Let's grab our right side fold out. You have an inside score line and an outside. On the outside one, we're going to pinch. And we are just going to slide that, and I'm going to slide it back underneath this other one. And I will line it up the best I can here, making sure I'm straight on the top with the other. Right about there. And I got that hooked around the back. Once you have yours where it needs to be placed, we're going to pinch and hold it. We're going to apply our glue and tack that down, just like we did the other one. If you get close to that place, right where that hinge is, you definitely want to make sure that you open that up and check to make sure none of your glue squirt out. Now we can fold back on that other score line and push until it is straight. And you should have this, and that's back behind. All right, we're going to open this up. We're going to grab one magnet. If I can get mine out of the package, there it goes. And it looks like on these, they may already have some adhesive on it. Just got to get the little backing off. That's pretty sticky. On the left side, come in about 3/4 of an inch, and we will place that. In your Ciao Bella paper pack, you will find the clocks page. On the back, you will find this. We're going to turn it sideways. We'll measure over 10 inches and cut. This long strip we're just going to set off to the side. We won't put it back in our reserves because we're going to be using it here in a moment. Now let's turn our paper sideways again. Measure over 8 inches and cut. You can put the other piece, the small piece, in your reserves. Looking at your sheet like this, we're going to measure over 5 3/8 inch and cut. We'll measure over again 5 3/8 inch and cut. One thing I wanted to point out is on your magnet, when you pull it over, it's going to probably hang off your page a little. We're going to be putting something over there, so don't worry about that. Let's just make sure that our panels that we cut work. And we should be able to place this down and have a nice little black border top bottom. If we move it in, we'll have a black border here. And if you see that score line closest to it, you'll have a black border there. Let's verify it's going to be the same over here. And it is. Okay, I'm going to set that one off to the side. And we're not going to quite put glue down yet because the next thing that we want to do is grab one of our 3.5 by 6 1/8 inside pockets. You're going to want your 1/4 inch score tape for this, and all we're going to do is lay a strip at the bottom of our piece here, and we're going to burnish that down really good. Find my tool. Oh, it got legs again. Ran off on me. There it is. So, I'm going to remove the score tape backing on that. Now on this, I'm just going to give a little bit of a bend. If you notice, if you were to lay it down, you should have overhang of black on either side if you were to center that. That is exactly what you want because the overhang is what we tuck back and behind. So give a little bend. I'm going to bring it all the way down, making sure I leave that overhang straight as I can anyway. I'm going to start from the middle and push out. And then I'm going to run my tool, make sure that score tape made good contact. Next, I'm just going to wrap my flaps around the back side here. And we'll add some glue. And we'll make sure that those are down. So that is our first pocket for this. And what's going to happen is when we place this, the magnet's still going to be able to get through. All right, paper for this. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it's blue. We're going to measure to fit. We're going to bring it all the way down just to where you can see about a 1/16 inch of our black cardstock. And we're going to take our pencil, if I can find mine, I am so disorganized, and we will make a pencil mark all the way to the right of our pocket. Now we'll put it on our paper cutter and we will cut. If you are not die cutting your trim or paper punching your trim, and you're just leaving it like this, you can apply glue, make sure you get around this, and you're going to place this. Remember, steer clear of at least 1/8 inch from that score line, and you can place your piece. Those of us that are using paper punches or dies, let's start with the people with the paper punches. Those of you that are trim punching, trim a piece that is trim punch a piece that is slightly longer than this, kind of like how we did our pocket. once you punch, whether you're large or ½ inch, what you're going to do is trim it down and leave yourself a little bit of black border down here. You will apply glue to the border part. You will place this and wrap your sides around and tack it down. Those of us that are die cutting, I'll show you what I'm using. It doesn't matter which die that you use. What you're wanting to do is die cut a piece on your trim. And I'm in the petite pocket accents, and I die cut this one. So the idea is to at least be able to wrap around the other side. So I am just going to, I have a little bit left over. If you do not, that's okay. You can just glue it right on the front and glue part of your trim down here. So I'm going to apply glue to this. I'm going to center that the best I can, and I'll wrap the edges around and tack it down. We can now, once you have your piece down, we can now add our glue to the back of this panel, and we can glue it down. Once you've glued it down, you're going to burnish it down. This piece, I decided to do something a little bit different. I had you stick this off to the side. Let's put that back in our reserves. Let's grab our other panel here, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to place this down, our score tape, and we're going to mount this pocket. There it is. Wondering where that ran off to. We'll give it a little bend. We will come down and we'll burnish. We'll wrap our flaps around the back side, and we'll use our glue to tack them down. In your reserves, we're going to pull this right back out. It's this side was to this side. And we're going to do our measure to fit. With our pencil, we'll just make a little pencil mark there and trim. Then we're going to glue it down. Remember to leave the same amount of spacing you had up here and down here that you did on the other one. If you are die cutting or paper punching, you'll do the same thing. You'll place your piece and wrap your edges around the back side, and then we're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue that in our little panel, making sure we're about 1/8 of an inch away from that score line. So let's do that. In your paper pack, in your Stamperia paper pack, one of them, you will find this tag sheet. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to cut out and around this, and then we'll cut out and around this. So for me, so I can keep most of this together, I'm just going to come in with my scissors here and cut this tag out. So that the rest stay on the sheet. It's easier for me to locate. And then of course I'll cut this one out. Once you cut out your pieces, we're going to flip this one over, so we're looking at it like this. We're going to ink around our edges, and we'll do some inking on this one. So what I want you to do is, here's your inside of your right fold out. What I want you to do is just put these two together so you can still have places to write there. Just kind of do something like this. So we're going to make sure that we have room and we're not going off the page here. I'm going to move it over, and that's where I know it's going to fit. So now what I want to do is just place some glue over here. And I'm going to glue these two together. Grab some of your, we're going to go with our 80-pound for this scrap. Let's apply glue to this, and we're going to glue this down, and we're going to cut out and around, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch of black border. I've done mine, and as you can see, just a little bit of black. So I want to be able to utilize this, if I bring it all the way down and I have my corner over there, as a little pocket, plus you can write right on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get halfway up the bottom here, and I'm going to go across the bottom and make sure I don't stick out, and I'm down. And I can still see my border go. Okay, so what we just created there, and I'm going to grab a little piece of something. I don't know what I have. But you can slide back behind here a picture or another tag or whatever. Okay, this is the side that has the magnet, and we're going to be doing a couple things here. The first thing is we need to place, we're going to get our paper here, but we need to be able to know where that magnet's going to hit. It's going to probably hit halfway off this page. So let's grab the mate, and I'll show you how we're going to figure that out. Let's see, find the one that, if you're using these, find the one that you can actually place it down on top and you see the sticker, because what's going to happen is we're going to bring this over. Now I know for a fact that, and I'm going to put glue on the sticker. If you're using my little magnets and you come over, you'll still mark it. So here's a little trick to find out where you need to be. What I'm going to do is go halfway down with a line of glue, and I'm going to dot some over here, just half. So now I know my sides or where they're supposed to be. I'm going to come over, I'm going to press, and now that tells me where this is going to need to place. Okay? And since I'm using stickers, that's great. Leave your glue residue. I'm going to take this off for a moment. If you completely fit on there, fine. If you're off the page, there was something that I wanted to do. So leave your glue in your Ciao Bella, and it's right behind the cover page. You're going to see this cutout page. And what I want is this. So I am going to cut in, and I'm just going to cut out and around to get that piece out, and then I can fussy cut around it and ink around it. So let's take a moment to cut out and around this piece. We're going to be doing a couple things here to thicken this up and also have a nice look for when we open it up. So grab some of your 80-pound paper, and all we're going to do is glue that down, and we're going to cut out and around. You do not need to leave a black border on this. Okay, last thing that we're going to do. In your reserves, you should have some of this. Okay? And you'll have some writing up here. You may even have this still attached, and it may just look like this. And that's fine. I'm going to detach mine. Up here, I'm just going to place this down, and I'm going to bring that all the way to the top here, and I'm going to cut off a piece. I'll put that back in my reserves. I'm going to glue this down. It'll be easier for me. Just glue that down, and now I'm going to cut out and around it. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is do not put your magnet down. You see where your glue is? You should still have some glue, whether it be on the page or halfway. If you know that you were going to hit halfway off, you're going to place this down. Okay? Now, your magnet. If you lost your place, go halfway down or the whole thing. You should be able to hit somewhere. And I see exactly where this one needs to go, and I can just take that little plastic, the coating off. If you need to apply glue on the magnets you're using, then do so. So if you're hanging off the page, that's fine, because we are not done. We are not done with this. In your reserves, you will have 2 long pieces that we had cut. One of them has the larger clock in the center where you can get at. We're going to take and we're going to cut right below that and right above that. These 2 pieces go back in our reserves. We're going to cut out and around this clock, and we're going to ink around those edges. Now, you have this, right? This is going to go over this eventually. We have got to get our paper first, and then we're going to place this on top. So we're going to set our little piece off, and we're going to find the paper for this. In your Stamperia paper pack, you're going to find this really cool print with the big clock. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to turn this so it's sideways. We're going to measure over 1 3/4 of an inch and cut so we can get our piece I want. So your piece should look like this. Let's turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. Now what I want you to do, looking at your sheet, is measure over 6 inches right in the middle and cut. The right side is going to go to the right outside, but we still have to trim off some over here. So I want you to place this and leave yourself a little bit of a black border here. You'll have a border. And when you come over here, you'll notice if you were to cut this little trim piece off, it should fit perfectly. So let's do that. Let's trim off that. Got mine cut. I'm going to verify I'm going to fit, just in case I made a cutting error, and I do. I'm going to apply glue, and I'm going to glue that down. I don't know if you noticed or not, but the center gear fits with, can fit with if you centered this. If it doesn't, that's okay. Now what we can do is we can apply glue to this, and we can place that. Let's try our magnet, and do be sure to get your bone folder in there to burnish down and around. You should latch. Okay, this piece, this is our outside, and we're just going to line that up here with the top and bottom of that piece. We'll leave ourselves just a little bit of a black border, and if we come over here, we can measure to fit and cut. Once you have this down, once you know it fits, you verified, let's apply our glue and glue that down, matching it up with the top and bottom of this page. That looks pretty good. I like it. Okay, let's set this off to the side. We're going to start working on our little book. And the first one that we want is the book base. And we're just going to fold on both of those score lines. I hope you like our page 1 so far. So once you fold on both of those, you can just kind of make it. Here is our spine. This is the book base. And we'll just open that up. The next thing that we have is we have the book pages, and we have 4 of those, and on each one of these we're just going to fold and burnish down on those score lines. Okay, here's our base. We're going to start with the first one. So what we're going to do is we have this little lip, right? All we're going to do is put a line of glue down it. I'm going to turn this so it's like this. I'm going to match up down here, corner to corner, making sure it is the same, matching up. And then when I come up here, whoops, I moved. When I come up here, I'm just going to press this down. The reason why, and you should fit perfectly, and the reason why I kind of like to do it that is to make sure that I am the same. So we have our first one in. We'll flip this around. We can apply our glue here now that we know that we're going to fit okay. And then we can wipe up any excess. So I'm going to place that down on this side, holding it so it doesn't get away from me, and I'll place that. And then I'm going to open it up to make sure that I don't have glue squirting out. And I can just clean that right on up with my little thing here. And I'm checking over here, make sure I get that glue up. Okay, so you have this. Now we're going to turn it and we'll have the inside here, and we're going to do the same thing. We'll just put it on this little piece of cardstock, not on the hinge in here, not on that little spine, but we'll match up here and we'll place that one on that side. And we'll open it up and get this burnished down too, and get any glue that seems to want to get away from us there. Okay, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to do the same thing. I'll put a little glue right here. I'll get my piece and press it down. And it looks like I got some glue there. Burnish it down. Okay, so this is our little book. So let's start with getting the front on there. In your reserves, you will have this long piece. It has the train at the bottom and it has this. We're going to turn it. We'll measure over 6 1/4 inch and cut. Looking at your piece like this, we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. We're going to apply glue to this side, and we're going to glue that right on down, and we're going to center that, leaving ourselves a black border all the way around. And the opening of our book is over here. I got mine down. I opened up my book, and I'm going to burnish that down really good. We have a piece that needs to lay on top of this that we're going to get at. In your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to cut out and around this piece. Apply glue and glue that down in the center. There is the cover of our book. So for the rest of these pieces, we're going to find our paper for them, and they'll all be the same size. In your paper pack, you will find this print on the back. It looks like this. We're going to turn it this way. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. With this piece here, and you're going to keep both handy. See where the border starts? We're just going to put this on our paper cutter and trim down, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Here's my first trim. Okay, this is the easy part. All we need to do now is we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. We'll measure over 5 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Let's get our magnet. And I have adhesive on mine. Okay, I'm just going to place that away from the side. I'll come in about 3/4 of an inch. Alright, so we have this side here. We'll put the glue down and we will center it. And we'll apply glue to this one and we'll center it. Burnish down your pieces really good, and this is a great place to put some photos. Let's move on to the next page. So you have this piece left, and we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. Then what we're going to do is come from this side, measure over 5 inches and cut. You should have this piece left, and we'll put that in our reserves. We're going to apply glue to this side, and we're going to glue these down. And let's see, I think I'll have my border at the bottom and the sides. We're on to our next page here. In your paper pack, you will have one of these. We're going to turn it, looking at it sideways, measure over 6 inches, and cut. We'll start with this one, and we're going to make it real simple. Measure over 6 inches and cut. Okay, so this is what you have, right? We're going to turn this one upside down. We're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. Apply glue, center that, and glue that down. This one, we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. Apply glue and glue that one down. We have this left over. we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut, and we will measure over 5 inches and cut. We're going to apply glue to this side and glue it down, and we're going to do the same. Whoop, I've got to get my flower going the right way. And we're going to do the same for this. Last page. So this is what I want you to do. We are going to grab a magnet that matches up to the one up here. Okay? Make sure you have the right magnet that it clicks. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to close the book. But what we're going to do is place a dot in the center. And we're not gluing it down yet, we're just going to place it there. It's going to find the mate. Okay, so bring it in about 3/4 of an inch to start. Now, you see where it went there? We can see over here, because we definitely can pull that off, press, open up, and we can see now. And I'm going to get the glue off that, and I'm going to place my magnet. And I'm going to make sure I did this right with how it's supposed to go. Yeah. And I'm going to place my magnet where that, whoops, come back here, where that is. I'm going to wipe off any excess glue over here. Okay. We should be able to close and latch. So that is one way to find when you're buried underneath, is using the opposite page to get your thing and then dab your glue and it goes over. Okay, paper for this. This is where we're going to use some of our scraps. Grab this out of your reserves and we'll just flip that over. You should have a piece that is 2 inches wide by 12 inches long. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut that in half. So you should have 2 pieces now that are 2 inch wide by 6 inches. Double these up, measure over 1 inch and cut. Now what we have are 4 1 inch by 6 inch strips. And we're going to lay our first one just to get us started here on each page. So we're going to leave ourselves a border. We'll put that even top to bottom, and we're even on the sides there. Okay, same thing over on this side. And this is what's going to line us up. And this is where scraps definitely come in handy. So I think I'll go right about there. I'm going to burnish that down and definitely wipe up any glue that's seeped out. So I'm going to cut out and around this piece, okay? And that should be well enough, wide enough. So just cut out and around this one. Okay, I got that piece out. In your reserves, you will find a long skinny strip that's 12 inches long. It has the cuttings, it's a trim piece. So what we're going to do here is we're going to measure over 3 inches and cut, measure over 3 inches and cut, measure over again 3 inches and cut. That should give us 4 3-inch strips. So I've got my strips. 2 are for this side and these 2 here. I'm going to apply glue. I'm going to butt that right on up against there. Make sure it's straight on the bottom. Glue that down. And I'm going to do the same up here. You can probably see how I'm going with this now. This piece here, we're going to apply glue. We can slightly overlap if needed. And glue that down. It should fit though, just going from side to side. So this is what you should have. For this, I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to glue it down like that. We're going to do the same thing with these. We'll glue it down at the top and at the bottom, and we will come and glue that down. Okay, we have this one, and we are going to cut out and around like we did on this one, and then we'll apply glue and we'll glue that down. our book is done, and that gives us a lot of places to place photos. Let's grab this. All right, it may be easier. Now, when you do this, you may want to catch with that other magnet, and that is perfectly fine. Mine is catching, and what I want to do is apply glue underneath this, just like this, and up the side, about 3/4 of the way up, I'd say. The thing is you do not want this hanging off the side of your page. So I'm going to show you mine. Here's the back, about 3/4 of the way up. And I'm going to put some glue down here at the bottom. And that magnet is going to help me place it, at least mine. So as you can see, I can still see some of my paper just slightly over there. Once you have that down, open up your book and burnish it down. And the reason why I did not apply glue up and over here is, guess what? I can use that to tuck more picture mats back behind. What do I have here that I can just show you? Well, this is not a picture mat. That's huge. But you can see you can still slide things back behind. And you'll feel that magnet back there, probably from that one and that one. Okay, we are complete just about. There was something I wanted to do, and let's open this up and go to our back piece. On the cutout sheet, and that's from the Ciao Bella pack, and we've already taken out a piece here. We're just going to cut in, and you see the big hot air balloon? We're going to cut that out. And I'm going to try to keep the other pieces still on this. It's easier for me to see what's left that way. And now I'm going to cut out and around this piece. Once you cut it out, you can ink around the edges. I have my 80-pound scrap piece. And all I'm going to do here is I'll cut off a chunk. I'm going to glue this down, and then I'm going to cut out and around, leaving a black border. Here is mine. Don't glue that down just yet. On your Ciao Bella tags and sentiments sheet, right down here, it is better to see the destination we wish to reach than the point of departure. And we're going to cut that out. And again, try to keep your stuff still attached as much as possible to the sheets. It's so much easier to locate when we need to get that. So I'm cutting out around this. I'm going to ink around the edges, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this onto the black 80-pound cardstock, and I'll cut out around the edges, kind of like how I did there. Here are my pieces, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in from the side and put some glue. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to overlap it. Now on this piece, it's going to be like this. So what I want to do is come halfway up this balloon so I can still tuck things back behind. And I'm going to place that. Definitely burnish that down. So if I have a photograph, and let's see, if I have a photograph, I can still kind of halfway get something back underneath here if I wanted to. As a matter of fact, let's look in our 85 or our 60-pound cardstock. Cut a piece of cardstock from your 65-pound scraps, or cut a new sheet that is 4 3/8 inch by 6 3/8 inch. We're going to do this together, and I'll show you some unique ways. So once you have that, let's apply glue. We'll apply glue to the side with the writing, and we're going to bring that in, tuck it in, and then we will burnish that down. In your reserves, you should have this piece. It is approximately 4 inches wide by about 6 3/4 inch long. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. You can apply glue to this side, and we can just place that right in there like a frame. So I think that looks good. Let's do one more thing on this page. We're going to plant another one right down here. Cut a piece of your 65 pound. That is 3 3/8 inch by 5 1/8 inch. And we are going to apply glue. And this is just to show you different things that you can do. And we will place it down here, making sure it's even. Okay, in your reserves, you will find this print. This is for a smaller photo. It's 3 inch wide by about 6 inches long. Let's measure over 4 3/4 of an inch and cut. This is going to be a smaller photo. We're going to apply our glue and we will place that right down here inside there. That looks good to me. I'm going to hold this up so maybe you can see it a little better. Looks really good. Now up here you can place a journaling tag at the end of the tutorial after you put your photos down, and you can journal. Okay, it's time to close this up. We're going to flip this over. Now I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch, I think, or 3/8 or 1/4 inch is fine. We're going to go around the outside of this like a picture frame with our score tape to start. Next, once you've done that, you will go one down the middle and on either side. You'll want to burnish this down really good to get all the air out, especially around those edges. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stick this off to the side. We're not going to mount page 1 to start. After we complete page 2, we will mount it at the same time we do that. And there is a reason why I like to do that, and I will tell you when we reach that point. Page 1 is complete. We are now on to page 2.